All right.
All righty, well, we'll call the meeting to order and we'll start with the introductions. I'm Matt Brower, Chair of the State Committee. We'll do a roll call. The other voting members, Darren,
Here.
Scott Ryan,
Here.
Megan,
Here.
and Maureen.
Here.
All right, and Bethany, I'll turn it over to you for the rest of the attendees.
Great. Thank you very much, Matt. First, I want to do a quick roll call of the folks who are in our in-person locations. So let's start with Albany. You guys can go around the table.
Hey, everybody, I'm Tim Clark, engineer for the State Committee.
Corey Nellis, District Manager, Montgomery County.
Jason Kokanos, Ag Non-Point Source Manager.
Ben Luskin, Region 5 AEA.
That's it. Over to
Thank you very
Syracuse.
much. Yeah, how about Syracuse?
Hey, good morning, everyone. Ryan Cunningham, the Region 4 AEA Field Staff for the State Committee.
Good morning, everybody. PJ Emmerich, Region 2, Field Staff for the State Committee.
Hey, everyone. Good morning. Tyler Knapp, Watershed Programs Manager, State Committee.
Thank you all. So now we will shift to a roll call of our advisory members who are joining us remotely. Do we have anyone from Ag and Markets today? And I will mention Brian Steinmuller sends his regards. He had multiple meetings all at the same time today, so was unable to attend. Cornell Cooperative Extension. Do we have anyone from Cornell CALS?
Yep, Jared's here.
Good morning, Jared.
Morning.
CDEA.
Good morning, Caitlin Stewart, President.
Good morning. How about Department of Environmental Conservation? Okay. Department of Health?
Good morning, Ryan Bell, Source Water Protection.
Good morning, Morgan Tarbell, New York City Section Bureau of Water Supply Protection, DOH.
Good morning.
Morning.
Department of State?
Good morning to Pete Zimmer, Department of State.
Good morning, Pete. How about SUNY ESF? And NRCS.
Good morning, Helena Covington, Assistant State Con for Partnerships in RCS.
Good morning. All right, so we're moving on to a roll call of our state committee staff who have joined on the line. I am Bethany Bisdu, Executive Director of the State Soil and Water Conservation Committee. Greg Albrecht.
Morning, everybody. Bethany, Greg Albrecht, the AIM Coordinator with the State Committee and Ag and Markets.
Victor DiGiacomo.
Good morning, Victor DiGiacomo, Regional Field Staff for Western New York.
Good morning. Scott Fickbaum. Travis Ferry.
Good morning, Travis Ferry, Regional Field Staff for the Southeast New York with State Committee.
Chastity Miller.
Happy holidays, everybody. Chastity Miller here, the AEM Base Coordinator.
All right, Jennifer Clifford.
Good morning, Jennifer Clifford, CRF Program Manager.
Lauren Przorski.
Good morning, Lauren Przorski, Ecosystem-Based Management Program Coordinator.
Ron Bush.
Bethany, I apologize. I think Ron Bush and Brennan Jordan are both at the CCA training right now.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Yep. Gideon Frisbee.
Yeah, good morning. Gideon Frisbee, CNMP AEM Specialist with the State Committee.
Tim Sheldon? And Melissa Gordon. Okay. I just would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of the Soil and Water Conservation District representatives and board members who may be joining us this morning. If you're able to, please feel free to put your name and your district in the chat, and we'll make sure to add you to our agenda for attendance. And also welcome to anyone else who may be joining, members of the public, or anyone else who may be joining our meeting today. You're welcome to add your name and affiliation to the chat. Thank you, Matt. I think we're good to move on.
All right, we'll go to the review and approval of minutes. Is there any discussion or questions?
I move that we approve the minutes as submitted.
Okay, second.
I'll second that. It's Maureen.
Okay, we'll go to voting. Darren?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Maureen?
Aye.
And aye for me as well, so the motion is approved. We are at correspondence, Bethany.
I do not have any official correspondence to share out today with the committee. I am still filtering through a bunch of emails, so if we do have any periodicals or newsletters that came in, I'll make sure to report those out at our next meeting.
All righty. We will go on to something that's a whole new area for me. The AEM Nearshore Aquifer Tier 1 and 2 worksheets. Aquaculture, I'm sorry, not aquifer.
That's okay. I got you. Good morning, everybody. So Chaz Miller here, and today we are giving you guys an update and showing you some of the tools that we have created for the nearshore aquaculture new program that we've been working on for about a year. So nearshore aquaculture pretty much is centered in the Long Island area, New York City. Suffolk County, Nassau are the big locations for that. It is the production of aquatic organisms, oysters, clams, whatnot, could even be kelp. That's something that they're working on in Rhode Island. There's a long history of aquaculture down in the shoreline areas. It's a food source for many, and it's something that some of the districts down there have been really pushing for some opportunities to be able to utilize and help those producers. We've been working as a team for, like I said, a little bit over a year now. It includes Suffolk County, which is Corey Humphrey, Caitlin Boyle, and Marina. They actually have done a bulk of the work on this program. They've put together a basic tier 1 and tier 2, and we've taken that and adjusted that and worked on it and field tested it. And you guys got a copy of those for this meeting today. It also includes Nassau County Soil and Water. So that's Derek, Sean, and Tara. The town of Hempstead, Stephen, he is a producer and a town folk there that's been very, very helpful in identifying some of the questions we want to ask. The Soil and Water Committee staff, so myself, Greg, Travis, Ben, and Gideon, and Morgan Tarbell from the Department of Health, who is on the phone with us today. She's been very helpful. She's got some background in this and has been able to take a look at that and participate with us. So it's a really great team, and we've kind of come together as a request for this information from districts. We're we're trying to push together and work on some drafts. Again, a big shout out to Suffolk County. They've really done a lot of this work for us. Over 28% of the producers in Suffolk County are shellfish aquaculture producers. There's about 170 producers in Long Island. So you can see where this is a pretty good opportunity. We have presented this to you guys basically way back in March. But we've been working with the SPAC and the TAC committees to kind of push this forward, throw it out to the state, get everybody's idea and thoughts, and try and move forward from there. So our resource concerns, like many of the other systems or programs that we have, are non-point source pollution. You know, that's one of our biggest concerns. Water quality, biofouling, so, you know, keeping those little creatures happy, pests, invasive species, making sure we have habitat to grow them in, keeping that food supply protected, erosion and energy efficiency. And then, you know, the big one we've been working on and really pushing forward is our climate resiliency and protection, making sure we keep these habitats so we can continue to develop these food sources, make them affordable, energy efficient, and to keep moving forward. So AEM, you know, one of our biggest programs here is statewide. It's locally led. Each region and area, even county, are very different, and there's many different programs that work for each county across the state. Luckily for us, we have a very diverse state. I know it takes a long way to get across the state, so you can see quite a bit of different opportunities everywhere. But this is one piece that we've really been focusing on trying to move forward. So again, just a reminder about what our program is. It's open to everybody, voluntary, it's locally led, it's great partnerships, and it helps to identify and prioritize our needs as a state and as a producer. We work together quite a lot to figure out what we can do best for everybody, and feedback and information, so we know where things need to go and what they need to be. As you've seen before, and what we've talked a little bit about, the first step is a tier 1. And so this is where we take an inventory of what a basic producer needs. So we were developing a tier 1 specific to aquaculture producers, which seems simple, but it actually ended up being quite a bit of work in trying to figure out what questions to ask, what we need to know, what we want to know from them. And so you guys we've sent you a PDF of this out, but here's some of the questions that we're asking. What species you're growing, where you're getting them from, how big are they, how much are dying off, what are you doing with those die-offs, how do you get to your beds, is it a boat, a motorboat inboard? How are you growing these animals, and what you're doing to keep that equipment clean? What is a concern that you have as a producer of food, so that you can make sure you have those permits, where your animals go, how long you hold them, do you need ice, you know, and those concerns. So I want to pause here and see if you guys had any questions on the tier 1 at all.
The only thing I was curious about is, so the footprint of these operations, there's the both on and offshore property.
Correct.
Or areas that they're using, and the onshore, what typically happens there? I know nothing about aquaculture down there.
So it's more of a processing at that point. So, you know, sorting animals or shells per se, washing, cleaning equipment, and storing. And so, you know, some operators use a combined location for this, where they kind of come together and use the same spot, and some are doing it, say, in their backyards from their docks and whatnot. So it's a variety of different situations, but most of the time it's in a general area or in the backyard, where you're sorting, sizing, packaging up, and putting them on ice for transport to, say, a restaurant or a farmer's market.
Okay, so the erosion then would be just shoreline erosion concerns. Yes?
Essentially, yes. And storm, you know, like as a result of a storm type of an event where we're hitting docks or edges and stuff. So trying to protect that so we're not losing land too.
Okay.
Yep.
How
Great
much of an
question.
educational process do you think it's going to be? You're dealing with under 200 producers, you said, but how many of them already are knowledgeable about some of these questions you're asking, and how much of this is designed to raise awareness and knowledge?
That's a good question. That I'm not sure. I think a lot of them know what they are doing. I think a lot of them chat, like all of our producers chat amongst themselves of what's good and what works for them and what's the best. Luckily, Corey Humphreys, who I don't know that he's on today, but he has some experience in this personally. He's done this before. And so I don't, maybe 50-50. I'm not sure. That's a great question that I can ask those guys and get back to you on. But he definitely, I think that a lot of them know a lot more than we do on it. So that's good. There are some good resources at our partners, NRCS and Cornell Cooperative Extension down in the island, that have been helping and working with these producers also. We also have some connections in Rhode Island that we've made. They've got a great successful program offshore there. And so they've been providing some great information too. So hopefully that'll help ease some of that burden of figuring out all that information.
I have a question too, Chastity. It's Maureen.
Hey.
How do you know how often the samples are taken and evaluated for consumer health reasons?
Like if they're being sold to a restaurant and whatnot?
Yeah, like how do we know they're safe, basically? How often do they have to sample?
That I don't know, but I can, Morgan, do you by chance know that? She may or may not.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please? I've been
She
having
wants
some
to
audio
know
issues.
yeah, that's okay. She wants to know how often samples are tested for consumption, like making sure that the creatures are safe.
I would not know that.
But I will ask that. Yeah.
Yeah, excuse me, my fisheries experience has been primarily within academia when I was in my master's program. And I at DOH deal more so with drinking water. So the actual sampling of fisheries, maybe DEC folks would know, and water samples out that way.
I can definitely find out that, but part of the evaluation is checking for permits. Like, so in order to sell, you know, to a market or whatnot, there's a number of permits that are required, which are right here under the food safety section. So I don't know that answer, but I can find out that answer for you and get it to you, Maureen.
Well, I just think
It's a good question.
As filter feeders, I just wonder how often conditions change that would change what's in their tissues. But
I'm sure pretty frequently. I just don't know how frequently.
yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah, for
Thank you.
shellfish, I'm not as familiar with it. Actually, before my current position, I was in the Bureau of Toxic Substance Assessment here at DOH, where I evaluated toxicology samples from DEC to determine fish consumption advisories for New York State water bodies. And we didn't really deal with shellfish. We just dealt with actual fish. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the attention to this question.
Absolutely. Good question.
It is.
Hey, Chaz, Scott, what's the scale of these operations as far as size? I know nothing about aquaculture, so.
I mean, some of them are as small as a backyard, want to raise some for your own consumption, to supplying multiple restaurants on the island. So they can be small or they can be pretty large, like thousands of shellfish suspended in the water column. So pretty good size. I can't eat them, so I'm not sure. Somebody else
I've
has
dissected too many to want to eat them.
But yeah, they can be pretty good sized, and they're you know, Long Island and New York is a pretty large producer of shellfish. So
it's very interesting.
Any other questions on our tier 1? So this tier 1 is your first line evaluation. Just if, you know, somebody comes in the door or you're out at the dock and you're taking a look at what they have and where they are, and kind of evaluating a little bit of how they run things, what they do and how they do it. So after that, just like any of our other programs, you go to a tier 2, and that's when you go out, take a look at the operation, sit down and chat with the producer a little bit more, try and figure out what they have, where they're doing it. Are they having success? Are they having some concerns? Do they need some upgrades? How do you deal with stock that hasn't survived? How do you process the water that you wash with the creatures and the equipment that they're suspended on? So this is our second step in the process. And again, doesn't have to be a one-shot deal. You go out, talk to somebody for an hour or two, and then you're all set. It could be multiple visits on multiple days, even a boat ride out. This also includes, as you'll see on these pages, how to deal with human waste on the boat or off the boat. As silly as that may sound, it is something that is very important. And you need to know what's going on there and if there's anything that can be done to improve that. Are there any concerns about onshore outlets or off areas or trash? How are you dealing with that? Again, your boat, is it a, 2-cycle diesel? What kind of equipment are you using? Some fishermen also paint the bottom of their boats so that organisms don't collect there and they have to scrape them off. How often do you do that? Do you do that? How do you get your creatures to market? Is it in a cooler? Is it a box truck? How are we doing that, and how are you keeping them at, like Maureen said and asked about, correct temperatures and safe? Because that is very important also. And so the focus on our tier 2 is just digging in a little bit deeper on what you have, where you're doing it, and identifying the biggest concerns that you may have, which you'll then summarize as a district. You'll summarize into a tier 2 summary where you have priority levels, and that's when you kind of try to figure out what you can do about those things. So I'm going to pause here. Again, I don't produce shellfish, so I may or may not have all the answers, but I can sure get them for you. So go ahead, and do you have any questions on the tier 2 so far?
Hi, Chaz. This is Pete Zimmer with DOS. I think, like a lot of folks on the phone, I know very little about the subject. However, I think I know enough to know that I don't know enough as well. Wondering if somewhere in this process, if you're going to ask like what municipality the
Mhm.
activities are taking place?
Yep.
'Cause I-
Absolutely.
okay.
That's actually up in our tier 1 process. Up in here, it also asks if you own the area you're working in. It's right in here. What your leases are, how long you have them for, when does your license expired. So there is all of that information there. And you also collect right up in here UTM coordinates of those locations. So absolutely, you can map them. There's some pretty big programs in Long Island that they participate in. I don't if Greg can remember the acronym off the top of his head, I'm sure. But there's a Long Island shellfish organization that a lot of these producers are also part of. So the people who are doing this work actually have quite a bit of information on it. And like I said, Corey in Suffolk County, who's the district manager there, has done this himself. So they're pretty knowledgeable.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
I have another question, it's
Sure.
Maureen. It's curious, the glossary, there's some new words for me for sure. But I see that one of the questions on the tier 1 is about the ploidy. And I understand what that is, but have they developed them to be tetraploid, or are these just naturally occurring? Do you know? And I'm just wondering why it's important.
That I don't know. I won't even humor that question in the
Okay.
sense that I have no idea, but
Okay.
I can get the answer for you.
All right. I'm just curious.
I will ask that question. I definitely will see if I can get you some information on that. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I would just love to go see this. It's fascinating.
Yes. And that's something we're going to try and do maybe in the spring, is to try and get out there and take a look at some of this stuff. So yeah, my science brain is not, invertebrate brain is not there right now. My EM brain is there.
I can actually offer just a very brief explanation. So for
Awesome.
the ploidies,
Thank you, Morgan.
I will do my best. It's been a long time since I've had to think about all of this. So for the ploids, there's single, there's triploids, double diploids. They basically are correlated to how well a oyster or shellfish can reproduce. So what I think it has to do with succession, with their breeding success. If you want to keep harvesting, then you need to keep breeding.
Okay.
That is my basic explanation. I hope that helps.
Yeah. So it would seem like the triploid are not so successful. And I know we've developed fish that we can release that won't reproduce because of the ploidy. I'm just curious. There must be a reason.
I think you're right about that. This is Klaus. Triploids in general are sterile.
Yeah.
You know, of course, with the fish, that's useful if you don't want them to escape into the environment.
Yep.
Okay. Just
Or
an
like
aside.
it may also have to affect how fast they grow as well, their growth rate.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's a whole another world. It's so fascinating.
It is.
Maybe, and that makes me think maybe we need to expand our glossary slightly. So
Maybe.
I will make a note on that.
And fair to
ahead,
say,
Trey.
Chaz and everybody, these are really good questions. And that's sort of the nature of these AIM tools, is that we work with experts in the topic to get them so that they're a point where the first draft is useful for then the district to go out and work with growers. And then you learn from that and update them. So chances are within, right, Chaz, 2026 or early 2027, we might be revisiting this with the SPAC TAC and state committee to build in some things that the districts have learned down on the island. And you know, these questions also make me think of once Corey Humphreys and his team in Suffolk have some more time with these and some projects underway, some interactions with growers. Maybe Bethany, we should have him and present to the state committee. And he's an expert in this area and can answer a lot of these questions and then share their experiences with them.
Super.
I have a friend who's an oyster farmer, and one of the things I learned from her is that the oyster production is actually extremely important for cleaning the water, so that there are some huge ecosystem services that are being provided by the oyster farms, and encouraging more oyster farmers would have a real positive effect on the environment all the way around the islands.
Yes.
And one thing we've learned, right, Chaz, is that while there are more like commercial, this is our small business sort of arrangements. It seems like a lot of the oyster growers are, doing it on the side. They work as a firefighter, and then on the side they grow oysters. Or so it's kind of neat, small ag industry down there. And I will go on mute here and let you continue, Chaz. But as folks have been asking really good questions, I've been attempting to link in some of those resources to them. So at least we can take some steps forward there until, we have Corey Humphrey and company maybe sometime in 2026 present.
Thank you so much, Greg. That's awesome. I can't see the chat, so if there's anything I need,
yeah,
you got me.
I'll keep an eye.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, I reiterate, thank you so much, Greg, and thank you guys. These questions are awesome. And again, a lot of us are relatively new to it also. And Corey and his team in Nassau County have been critical in developing this because they've got the knowledge, they know what to do. And they've actually taken these out for spins and talked to producers about it. And we've made some adjustments and changes as a result of that. And like Greg said, we will continue to take a look at those. And if we feel like it needs an adjustment, then we'll make those adjustments because that's important to continue to do. I mean, nothing's ever, set in stone. We've also developed a basic fact sheet just for those districts to kind of have on hand to talk and begin a conversation maybe with a producer. And it's just some basics, some links, nothing too much, but more of an introduction of, hey, we've got this opportunity now. This is some of the basics for it. Here's what it is. And hey, let's have a conversation about it. So our next steps really are to continue to test drive this. Like I said, they've taken it out, done a few visits, taken a look at a few different things, but we are continuing to do that to continue to further develop and make this tool the best it can be. Corey is actually working on a component plan, like table of contents, an outline, so that we kind of know what a plan would look like that we could potentially implement. We are developing a system for our Ag BMP guide. And just like we were just talking about training and piloting, bringing it back, presenting it to others, seeing what they can utilize it for. And those districts are actually going to be utilizing AEM Round 19 funding to do some of this work. So the plan takes a look. This is what a regular I shouldn't say regular, a lot of what our existing 3A plans look like. This is what we're talking about for our nearshore aquaculture plan. So it looks pretty similar, lists all those resource concerns and best management practices, and which are right here. So these are the NRCS standards and the best management practices that mostly apply to nearshore aquaculture. There could be a few more here and there, but they're in here. It includes the equipment maintenance, protecting your area, keeping the little pests off, creating habitat to continue to support these operations. Also sorting and cleaning and processing areas off onshore. So that's the heavy use area. That's the roof runoff structures and the covers. So we can protect those areas and make sure that they to stay clean and they're safe. So these are many of the BMPs that will be, or best management practices that will be used for these projects. And again, this is a layout of what we have right now as systems. These two are most recent that we've added in the last few years. And so we're talking about adding nearshore aquaculture as another system within this Ag BMP catalog. So, and again, we've begun to develop that. This is sort of what it'll look like. Where I've been working on that piece by piece. So, questions? Hit me.
Yeah, I'm just curious as as we look at all those things, the BMPs and are we set up now with the AIM funding and the other funding to just sort of roll this in, or is there going to be a need to tweak things so that this gets fits into what we're doing?
The part of what we're doing today is presenting that tier 1 and tier 2. Our plan is set up to roll into round 19. There's not an official BMP in the catalog yet, but we are allowing those districts to test and trial these systems for us to keep developing that.
And then, so if down the road, some of these operations are applying for funding, is there going to have to be people that have more expertise in this area added to the scoring of any proposals, or will the existing group of scorers be just kind of trained on this so that they're better able to, because I assume at some point you're going to be comparing proposals from these operations to other types of agriculture. And so, we want to make sure, I guess what I'm thinking is, are we going to have it set up so everybody knows how to score each thing fairly?
That's a great question, Matt, and we'll methodically figure that out all together, because it before that step, it would need to be contemplated of, do we build that into CRF? Do we build that into Ag non-point source? It's sort of like Chaz said, the trial pilot approach is the locally competitive program that we have, and that's the one that Chaz manages, the AIM-based program. So that's how they're going to kick the tires with it here in 2026, 2027. And that's a homework assignment for us is, okay, now once we have the tier 3 plan and the nearshore aquaculture BMP system vetted among us and approved by the state committee, then it becomes a question of, well, what do we do with our statewide competitive programs?
Yeah, I know I'm thinking quite a ways down the road, but I just, was kind of, I guess, thinking how prepared are we for this?
We will make our.
I have another question, which might be off track, but so you don't have to add anything to the water for their feeding. I mean, I know they're filter feeders and everything, but is there any amendments that they need? There's any additions to where they're growing, or is it just natural food?
To my knowledge, it's natural food. I don't believe that they're adding any amendments. I don't want to say no because, Corey could tell me wrong, but I'm pretty sure that there is not any addition. That's why they're suspended in the water column, so they can feed. So that's why the water quality is so important.
Right.
So
yeah. Thank you.
There could be dependent on what organism you're growing. We're talking about, filter feeders, but this is also a kelp opportunity, and it could expand to a fishery at some time. So there could be that addition at some point, depending on where we're going.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I know Caitlin has her hand up.
Thank you. What is the approval process for aquaculture? How would this go through the motions for approval?
What aspects, Caitlin?
So in terms of would aquaculture be presented to the SPAC? Would it need to be approved by the TAC and then the state committee to add this to AIM? The idea is to add this to AIM, correct?
So we've already we've presented it to TAC and SPAC a couple times over the last year. And so they've had it out and basically just to get everybody's ideas on if there is anything else we're missing. Are we hitting all the marks? And so it's been through those committees and it's here today for the tier 1 and tier 2 to be approved so that those districts in that area can use it for AEM round 19.
Got it.
Correct, Greg? Sorry to interrupt you.
Yep, perfect, thanks. Just like the other ones.
Well, with that, is there any other questions or discussions? If not, motion to approve then these 2 worksheets?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay, we will go to voting then. Darren?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Maureen? Maureen?
You're on mute.
Oh, I am?
Yep, now,
Yes.
not now. You're good, I think now.
Okay, aye.
Okay, and aye for me as well. So the
Well.
motion is approved. So, all right, we are at the SWCD Annual Plan of Work presentation from Bethany, Ryan, Jim.
Yeah, so I'll just do a quick introduction here and then pass things off to you, Ryan. Each year, the state committee has to approve annual plans of work that are submitted by soil and water conservation districts. Ryan will talk a little bit more about what the annual plans of work are and why they're important. But we wanted to kind of have a presentation to share with all of you to provide a little background context so you know what it is that you're actually approving. And we also invited Jim Liebram, who is the district manager of Warren County, to come share how their district utilizes their annual plan of work and throughout the year. So I'll pass it off to you, Ryan.
Thanks, Bethany. Good morning, everyone. I'm Ryan Cunningham, Region 4 AEA. Every December, we usually have the board review or at least take a look at all of our annual plans of work from across the state and kind of approve them in a list. We list out all the counties. We thought it'd be a good idea to get into some of the details and just a brief background, just so you kind of understand the work that goes in behind these, kind of behind the scenes. If you are on our board and sit on a soil and water board, this might be familiar for you, so it could be a little bit of a refresher, but we'll get into some of the fine print too and maybe some new information for you. So a brief history, going back through our files, I've been digging around the past week or so to kind of get an idea before my time and many of other time on here. We've reviewed and approved as a board and as a group annual plans of work for districts for about 30 years. So going back to about 1997, we reference some guidance from the then director, Ron Kaplowitz, that kind of laid out minimum qualifications for the annual plan of work, criteria you may want to consider writing into your plan each year, and kind of the activities that sort of support the district throughout the year. And they've been individually reviewed by other AEAs like myself and PJ, Vic, and Scott, and others that came before us around the state in our regions. And we see quite a variety depending on the district. As you might imagine, programs are different across the state. Annual plans of work are quite different across the state. But we did set up some criteria as kind of a minimum measures for everyone to consider. So moving ahead a little bit into the early 2000s, eventually annual plans of work were incorporated into our performance measure criteria, which Ben has been managing for the past several years. And it's currently part of state aid Part C performance measures. So that's one item that we check off the list every year. We've changed it to November 1st in recent years to kind of review before the coming year. And that's when draft and final copies of these annual plans of work start rolling in, usually by early fall to late fall. And I won't speak for the other regional folks, but typically I try to set eyes on these before they're due November 1st. So I'll oftentimes get a draft, kind of run through it. And especially for newer managers around the state, I'll give some feedback, ways that they could add some things in, maybe considerations for some stuff that's been omitted. And typically by the end of the year, by early December, everyone will have it approved by their board. But it is a requirement to get at least a draft into us by November 1st each year. And then so subsequently our board takes a look in December. So it's intended to be a management and decision-making tool, but maybe more importantly, it also provides indemnification for state projects approved by the committee that are also, then carried out locally by conservation districts. I don't know if we can actually draw to a court case that supports that or says that, but generally speaking, you want to have approved programs because the districts are the local liaison that does that work on behalf of the state committee and some of the state funding. So just to kind of break it down a little bit, we don't necessarily require strategic plans as a whole. We do have ADM strategic planning for the long term. We do require that annual plan of work. So some districts do have strategic plans, which is more of a long range, goals, a little bit more vague, kind of establishes foundation and framework for their plan, has a vision that goes long term, very flexible because things change over the years. And the annual plan of work is supposed to kind of pull from that on an annual basis, right? So you've got these long-term goals, grants that go on for multiple years, programs that may be, 5-10 years long. And the idea is to kind of pull from that plan, at least conceptually, and kind of build an annual plan of work to the best that they can and the best that they can estimate what might be coming up in the coming calendar year. So that's kind of easy for grants that they have because they already know what they're doing. It can become a little trickier for things like Part C because Part C comes every year and that's a little flexible depending on where projects might go, where partners are at a certain given time during a year. So it allows a little bit of flexibility still to that end, but there is a difference between sort of the annual and then the long-term goals with planning. So we do have guidelines that we send out to districts. I make a point of, and I think the other guys could say this too, we make a point of giving this guidance to district managers that are newer. They want to kind of reevaluate their plans. I'd say veteran district managers have been doing this a long time, so they've got a template to work from, and they might tweak things here or there depending on where funding is available, depending on maybe some new staff, different direction by a county. They want to take a different direction with different priorities. But generally speaking, it kind of serves as a roadmap and kind of defines that destination for the coming year. Ideally, I would share with districts that they should probably pull this out quarterly and review with their board and kind of use it as a checklist along the way to maybe see where they're going, what they haven't hit yet for deliverables, what they may want to change throughout the year. And sort of on an individual basis, it identifies roles and responsibilities for directors and staff. And that can be kind of vague too, because staff can come and go. So if you have technician responsibilities, manager responsibilities, that can kind of stay with the position regardless if you have a changeover of staff throughout a year, any given year. It's also a way for them to manage risk and reduce liability, and I'll get into the risk and liability a little bit here. It can act as a budgeting tool. I see a few districts have their annual budget kind of incorporated within their annual plan of work. And in that way, it can identify resources and the need to deliver certain programs. I'm assuming some districts take this even to a county evaluation. If they get some time with their county ledge to talk about annual appropriations, they can speak to their programs pretty coherently. It can be a small document to kind of share. They can show the programs that are out there, where the funding kind of comes from, what they're doing locally. It's a good way to measure performance. I see several districts nowadays use this for staff evaluation. How many trainings have we done during the year? It can even be for board evaluation, checking performance measures along the way. Okay, what do we still need to do before the end of the calendar year? It's a way to kind of kind of keep on track, given all the things that are going on around the state and districts. So we do have, a whole series of paperwork for guidance that we kind of hand out to districts. Digitally we send it around. Many of them have had it for years. But basically, the task areas are what kind of we came up with several decades back. It's minimum measures that we want to consider for our annual plans of work. And that, generally speaking, people stick within, district operations, programs, activities, education, information, and partnerships. And I would say, by and large, every district probably has something to put under each of these categories. As we've seen through the years, programs, funding, local priorities are different for everybody, but generally speaking, we see a lot of good information listed under these categories. And if we don't see these, or we see programs that kind of come through on these annual plans of work and it might be missing something major that they do, that's where we kind of fill in as regional coordinators and say, hey, you considered adding this to your annual plan of work, or boy, you guys spend a lot of time on this, but I don't see it in your plan of work. They may know Part B projects ahead of time, so Part C projects ahead of time. How do you incorporate those into a plan of work? So they're different across the board, but generally speaking, we try to kind of stick to these task areas, and people generally do a good job. And it's important because it is a lot of information. It's sort of important that it's in a format that you can kind of read and understand. The board understands, what they're looking at, what they're reviewing, because usually in early fall, some of our board members here sit on district boards. You can probably attest to, this probably came out in September, October at your district board. You've kind of had to take a look at it and kind of understand, where the district is going, and you want it to be readable, to be able to understand, what it is you're signing off on, what are the programs we're doing locally. So we kind of try to stick to the structure, and most people seem to be able to do that pretty well. So we kind of have a separate category for risk assessment, and we've made a point over the years of highlighting the important kind of check boxes here for different liabilities you might see when you're considering risk. And that could be anything from, building and grounds to vehicle maintenance to, hazard materials and OSHA training for employees, what your liabilities are for taking volunteers on for certain things. And of course, everything you might do locally that we don't necessarily pass at our level for you, things like locally approved board policies, right? It might seem kind of silly every year to have the same policies and you review them in January every year, but I can tell you when you need to enforce them, you go right back to that fine print in those policies, and they become very important when you do need to use them. So at the very least, we like to make sure these risk assessment checklists are out there so that everyone kind of knows, the same playing field, what we're all looking at, what your liabilities might be. Sometimes the worst liabilities are the ones you don't know they even have. So this is just a way for districts to kind of assess that internally. Some of the biggest stuff lately is internal controls, right? Cybersecurity, some of that. We see new things coming out with that all the time. And of course, there's always been project liability, right? Certifications and qualifications for people on site, making sure you're following standards. You're in a very hazardous environment on a lot of farms and heavy equipment. So all kinds of things we need to consider when we're kind of writing these plans and putting them into effect. And I've got one more slide here that kind of continues the line items for assessing risk. Program liability, operational liability, I kind of mentioned that, but mainly we want to put this on the radar of local districts and boards to consider. Sometimes we see risk assessment kind of labeled in a plan, but not actually followed out into an actual plan that somebody can implement. So that's something we've tried to tweak over the years. And I think district managers have done a good job with their boards and requiring more, hazard material training. I see a lot of division meetings, CDA division meetings, concentrating on proper equipment use, things like that, just so everyone knows where their risks and liabilities are. So I can stop for a minute to see if there's any questions from anybody, maybe from our board, before we get into like the lengthy list of district annual plans of work. But I also wanted to give Jim Liebram a little bit of time here to share some information. Jim is district manager of Warren County Soil and Water. He's been there many years as a manager, and prior to that, a technician. So Jim, I'll stop sharing this in case you want to share something, and we'll kind of pause for a second to see if there's any questions. Otherwise, you can kind of take it from there if you can.
Okay. Yeah, sure. I'm glad to. I'll share my screen here. A lot of the folks who are on have experienced annual plans of work, gone through them, maybe not specifically developed them, but have contributed. Um, I do things a little differently than other managers in a lot of stuff. So don't think that what I say is the only way or what Ryan's saying is the only way. You have to fit your own district and really work with the board to find out what that correct fit is. So, um, you know, when when Ryan asked about this, this is everybody has their own plan of work. Looks probably somewhat similar to this. Um, when Ryan was our AEA, I can't remember how many times he asked. He's like, "Hey, can I borrow this? Can I send this to another district?" I did it, and that was because there's a lot of new managers that were coming out, and this plan was put together by my old manager, the format, Dave Wick, um, way back in 96, 97, 98 when all this started. And I see Corey's on the line. He probably did it as well. I was always a little suspicious of Ryan sending this out, though. I thought it'd end up on eBay and somehow maybe we would see some funding, but that never came through, but glad to share it. I went back to the files today, and here's the 1998 annual plan of work. It's just as valid for what, was occurring, but it's, not as flashy, I guess, to put it simply. And they don't have to be, they just have to hit the highlights, in my opinion, as to what Ryan was talking about. Ours is pretty straightforward. Here's our objectives, table of contents. Here's the staff. We break it down: stormwater management, erosion control, aquatic terrestrial projects, landowner organizations and organization assistance. I'm not going to read them all, but you can see we have it broke down pretty well, which actually lines up pretty good with the annual report information. We could take a look at that along with performance measures, office operations. Ryan talked about, training. This one was seek necessary training for staff and directors. So we actually do a lot of trainings, and we do trainings internally, but we're very fortunate because since we pay for insurance through the county, it's self-insurance. They offer us and allow us to take a lot of safety trainings through a catalog that they have. So it's easy for us to get those trainings, and I do support that. If you're asking somebody to use a piece of equipment they're not familiar with, I would certainly encourage anybody to get a better understanding of how to operate it and how to safely operate it. So this is, again, shouldn't look significantly different than anybody else's. I usually try to have our APW put together in August, or pretty much put together, so that we can send it to the board in either the August or the September meeting. I email it out ahead of time, look for comments. We discuss it at whichever meeting we are at. There's usually some little tweaks here and there. We go to our county budget meeting somewhere in the last few days of August or the first week of September. I bring this along. We are very well supported, and Ryan and Ben Luskin came to our meeting yesterday, and I think that they can vouch for the support we get from the county, but I think a lot of it is because of our ability to accomplish tasks. The annual plan of work, and I don't have a background in planning. A lot of us just kind of stumble into this, and it's out of necessity, in my opinion. But the annual plan of work is a good active living document. It's one of 3 documents that I kind of review quite a bit every year. It's the annual plan of work is one of them. One is our continuity of operations plans. And as I always would tell the staff, if I break my leg or fracture my leg and I'm out of work for a month, I expect the office to run smoothly and also be better, because you have different opinions, different thoughts from people running it. So I think that's an important document. And the hazard mitigation plan we have for our county, for a litany of reasons that I won't get into, but those to me are the 3 most important plans. The annual plan of work we use as a guidance document. We have to do it, right? We have to do it for the state committee to take a look, review, get that indemnification, which I think, Ryan, I just asked you, I'm like, have you ever seen anything like that? And that was the exact answer you had was, I can't find anything, but it really sets up a calendar well for the year. And it is very important when you have newer employees because, and again, I saw, there's Aaron and Colby and some other managers out there. You get a new employee, and after a day or two of, kind of having them shadow, do different things, getting the paperwork filled out, they come in and they're like, oh, what do I work on? You're like, okay, well, here's the annual plan of work. And go through, take a look, and just having that, having the ability to hand something like this to a new employee or a new director to gain insight into exactly what they're agreeing to be part of is very helpful. And it's actually time saving for me and other staff. And then it allows that employee to kind of define, because let's just say a technician, what is exactly the technician working on? Well, we have, AEM, you have stream culverts, you have hazard mitigation, and you have other duties as assigned. So, some of it is evaluating the interests and the strengths of that employee in that first 6 months, 3 months, 9 months, whatever you're doing for an evaluation, and being able to draw on them and say, hey, this is your strength. Oh, hey, I didn't know you were that good with spreadsheets. You can do a spreadsheet. It doesn't matter. If you're good with a spreadsheet, you'll be good with anything you're doing with a spreadsheet. If you only know something about, going out in the field and evaluating a section of stream, that doesn't always translate to other processes that we may be working on. So, finding some of that out in the beginning stages by just introducing the plan of work to new folks is important. When the end of the year comes around, obviously, February 15th or so is the important day for us to get all our state reports in. Once we clear all that out, once I get through a bunch of other stuff, do a review internally of the previous year's plan of work. And we change it up a little bit so we don't have necessarily notes. We have basically status, things like that. And we'll fill in everything. It's a great way to gauge how you went through and either accomplished or didn't accomplish. And it really narrows down some of the potential issues that could arise if you just keep throwing this thing and renewing it and changing it from 26 to 27. It's a good way to reevaluate what you're working on, what direction you need to go. Hey, this line of funding is going to be running out in a couple of years. We got to start, building our capacity for this line of funding too. So having an evaluation, I think, of the annual plan of work is very important. And I provide that to the county administrator. Again, we just have very good support. We have great interactions and great communications. One of the county attorneys a few years ago, I took it as a great compliment. He said that we were, after he read everything and he was just saying fascinating, fascinating, fascinating. He said we're the special ops of the county. And I think that is true for every soil and water district out there. We get those little niche jobs. But this is what we can point back to. This is what we can give people. And this is where a lot of the justification for what we do as a job and a career comes from. And again, it shouldn't be static. It should be, dynamic. It should be able to be flexible and change. Bob Brower, when he was our AEA, he said, well, you want to make sure that you have projects covered that are approved. And so if you look at 16, undertake lake and management stream corridor projects with board approval that are identified or developed throughout the year. If there's something substantive that gets approved, I will send this to, our AEA and probably now Bethany and saying, hey, we're going to add this into the mix. So we actually send that information in and look to get updated, should be getting before you and gets approved. So it is an important document. It's a basis document which everybody can spring off of. And like I said, I think it's exceptionally important. So I think, Ryan, unless you have something else for me, I'll stop sharing with that. And if there's any questions for me, great. If not, tell me what I missed and what else you want me to talk about. But as you know, never put a microphone in front of me.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. That's a good high level overview. And I think you're right. I think a lot of districts have probably a similar layout and how they approach it with line items and different staff. And you made a good point that it's a not a static document, right? It's a living document that should be picked up throughout the year, addressed, things added or deleted as appropriate, especially bigger programs or where funding's being applied. So no, yeah, appreciate that. So yeah, we can pause for a minute and maybe hand it back to Bethany, and then we're probably going to approve individual district annual plans of work.
Does anybody have any questions for Ryan or Jim?
I just want to say that that was a great in-depth understanding of what you're doing, Jim. That plan is so helpful to see. And I appreciate that you brought up what Ryan was saying, that reevaluation of the document. And Ryan, I wonder if that's something that should be, you've suggested it twice that it should be done, but I wonder if it should be more than a suggestion. Because we all know when we're working on our goals, you have to look at them more than every December.
Yeah, I would agree with you. One thing that I've done, and probably the other coordinators can attest to, is making a point of having it pulled out and reviewed with their boards throughout the year. And that's a good way of kind of assessing to see if something has changed and whether they need to add things. I've received a few throughout the last 7 or 8 years where they've needed to be kind of relogged into our system because they've changed. Somebody, a district bought a piece of equipment and started a new program, or something major changed with it and they did revise it and send it in. So I've started with suggesting quarterly reviews, but you're right. It maybe should be something that's actually on a checklist to say, yeah, pull this out during the year, review it, add or subtract as necessary, and kind of put that in as a requirement. So that's a good point.
If there aren't any other questions, we can move forward to the, I guess, approval of the 2026 annual plans of work. So before I review all of the plans that we did receive, I do just want to mention that all of our 58 soil and water conservation districts did submit a draft version of their annual plan of work prior to November 1st. So they have all been reviewed by our regional coordinator staff and are being recommended for approval today. All of the plans are saved on our digital drive. So for voting members, if you are interested in reviewing any of the district plans, just for your information, I can make those available to you as well. So how we typically do it, I will ask, or I will review all of the districts that we receive plans for, and then we would be looking for a motion from the voting members to approve all of the plans for 2026. So we have received annual plans of work for 2026 from the following soil and water conservation districts: Albany, Allegheny, Broome, Cattaraugus, Cayuga, Chautauqua, Chemung, Shenango, Clinton, Columbia, Cortland, Delaware, Dutchess, Erie, Essex, Franklin, Fulton, Genesee, Greene, Hamilton, Herkimer, Jefferson, Lewis, Livingston, Madison, Monroe, Montgomery, Nassau, New York City, Niagara, Oneida, Onondaga, Ontario, Orange, Orleans, Oswego, Otsego, Putnam, Rensselaer, Rockland, St. Lawrence, Saratoga, Schenectady, Schoharie, Schuyler, Seneca, Steuben, Suffolk, Sullivan, Tioga, Tompkins, Ulster, Warren, Washington, Wayne, Westchester, Wyoming, and Yates. So again, all of these plans have been reviewed by our regional coordinator staff and are being recommended for your approval today.
Is there any discussion or questions? If not, a motion to approve those plans?
So move.
Second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
All right, we'll go to voting. Darren,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Megan,
Aye.
Maureen,
Aye.
and aye for me as well. So the motion is approved. We are on to the program update, starting with the agricultural non-point source pollution abatement and control program with Jason.
Bethany, would you mind if I shared my screen? There's been some additional amendments added since I submitted. We did get the material to the board late last week.
Oh, absolutely. Go right on ahead. Thanks, Jason.
Yeah. Okay, so you should be seeing program status update for Ag non-point source to begin with. So I'll start with our updated program before we get into amendments. So there's been not a lot of change in previous rounds this year. We only had one round 25 closeout, so not a lot of change to our summary table and graphs below. Between rounds 24 and 29, we just had, again, one round 25 closeout out of region 1. Good news on round 30 is our procurement record was approved last Monday. And we were able to immediately get all contracts to council for their approval. So they're all sitting with Ag and Markets Council. We currently have 6 approved and sent out to Conservation District for signature, and 1 has already been returned signed. These once all signed by the Conservation Districts will go back out to the Attorney General and State Comptroller for signature. Hope that's kind of a quicker turnaround. It's a little unknown when it's out of our department, but it should be a little quicker than the procurement record review. And then we go on to execution and payments from there. So that was our biggest time hurdle so far, was just comptroller review. Took us from early September to early December. So just where around 30 is at, but happy that it's making progress. So should be soon. Looking forward to round 31. We're still on track to release the RFP in January of 2026. Hammering down a date, but it would be closer to the new year than to the end of the month. We'll be working on that with council to get it out ASAP. We are thinking to, if we're going to be releasing it, if we are not ready to have a full department public release, we are comfortable releasing it just on SharePoint so that districts can have a crack at it, while our press release office is a little more busy in wintertime. A lot of programs get kicked off in winter. So that is our program status update. Last month, the board did ask for a quick overview of amendments for our rounds. So we did go through, and on screen is a quick basic summary of what we're looking at. So the total contracts per round, the contracts that have been amended, the number of amendments. So if there are multiple amendments, the next column will be the percent of those that were amended. The next column is the total term days for each round, and the number of late contracts per round. So you'll see in those first, 4 rows, rounds 24 through 27, we're doing about a little less than half of our contracts are getting amended. The vast majority of those are for time extensions. Generally, if there is a second or third or fourth amendment to it, it's a time extension paired with something else, like a change of B&P or a change of landowner. So they would need a little more time for the project in addition to those changes. Generally, what the board sees is just the time extensions. So we have amended 87 of the 311 contracts per active rounds. That A, B, C, D there is just a nomenclature for our amendment number. So A is amended once, B is amended twice. So you see how it kind of lowers off, fewer amendments as we go further on. And the longest term with an amendment, and this one is still active and in term and not late, is around 25. That's been going on for 7.2 years. But still, it's a waste storage, but still active and recently approved by this board. So in addition to these amendments, we'll be adding on an additional 13 for your approval today. It's gonna be 3 round 26s, 2 round 27s, and 8 round 28s. We are sort of hitting a lot of round 28s because the contract term for that round is expiring at the end of January next month. So a lot of districts are getting out ahead, trying to keep their contracts compliant.
Jason, this was really great analysis. I appreciate you following up from the request last month. I was just trying to remember it when you were doing this. Did you look up at all when we started implementing the 5-year contract term right off, like right from the get-go?
Round 29, and that's also when we
Okay.
started having 2 contract terms. 29 and 30 are both the date of the award letter and then the first of the next calendar year. So they are 5-year terms, but round 28 is still in that 3-year.
Gotcha.
Yeah, this is really interesting and helpful. Thanks. And I assume with 28, you know, probably that percentage is going to go up as time goes on, since that wasn't part of the 5-year extension. But I guess the numbers, the percentage of contracts with amendments was a little higher than I was hoping. So I guess it's a good thing that change was made.
I'm also pleased to see there's not that many late contracts, but is there a penalty for being late? I mean, it's credit to the districts, I think, that they keep up with the projects, but what is the penalty for being late?
Yep, so it's there is a scoring criteria in the non-point source program that I think it's in the scope of work that says that the districts are they're positively considered if they are able to complete a project on time and they don't have late contracts. We have been sort of more passive with that in the past, where we've been providing that information at request to reviewers. Going forward, we're thinking about actually giving the late list of contracts to the reviewers to know how many are late. I guess it would be more of a penalty in a future round for funding.
Okay, thank you for explaining that.
And the late contracts refers to projects where their contract term has actually ended, and we're just waiting to get like the final closeout reports. And districts have, I think, 60 days after the end date of the contract to submit a final report. So, you know, anything after that, I guess we would consider late. If the contract has been amended and approved and they're still within that active contract term, we wouldn't consider that late.
Or in my mind, even if they were to submit an amendment between now and, you know, under consideration. Something I'm thinking out loud.
No, I mean, honestly, now, you should be.
So, right. Thanks for that. In the vein of amendments, I will move on unless there's other questions. Okay. Hearing none, I will move to our amendments. These are all extensions. They're going to cover 4 of our 6 regions. In the interest of time, I'm going to just sort of set up the facts of it, and we did provide you the summaries and all the materials, and I'll direct you to the page numbers, and I can go over in more detail as it is, but I will more just direct you to the reason that the district gave for each one, but we can surely pause on each of them as needed. So I'll move from region to region, and we'll start region 1 with Erie County Soil Water, round 28, C701-501, the Clear Lake Watershed Project or Protection Project. The district is looking for an extension from January 31st, 26 to January 31st, 2027. For the reason given below, materials on pages 5 through 13 of your packet. Vic DiGiacomo, Region 1 AEA supports the request, but refers to State Committee. This would be the first amendment on this contract.
Is there any questions or discussions on this amendment? If not, a motion to approve?
A motion to approve it.
Second,
Yeah.
all righty, we'll go to voting. Darren,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Megan,
Aye.
Maureen,
Aye.
and aye for me as well, so that is approved.
Okay, thank you. The next four are all gonna be from Wyoming County Soil and Water, and they're around 28s. Before I go any further, I want to mention, we always encourage districts to join on these meetings for context. And, please feel free to hop off the line if you want to explain, or if there's questions too. So next one we'll consider is Wyoming County, around 28, C701523, the East Coy Creek Water Quality Protection Project. This is an extension from January 31st, 2026 to December 31st, 2026. Big Giacomo Region 1 AEA supports the request. There are no previous amendments here, and your material is on pages 14 through 19 of your provided packet.
Any questions or discussion?
Just a quick clarification. Sorry, Jason, the time extension is till the end of 2027? Or no, I'm sorry, end of 2026. Never mind. I got it.
Yep, for the calendar year of 26.
Yeah.
Yep, okay. Any other questions or comments? If not, a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll make motion.
Okay, we got a first and a second there. We'll go to voting. Darren,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Megan,
Aye.
Maureen? An aye for me as well, so that motion is approved.
Next one, same district, Wyoming County, around 28, C71524, Village of Attica Drinking Water Protection Project. Same extension from January 31st, 26 through December 31st, 26. Your materials on pages 20 through 25 of your packet. Victor Giacomo brought this and supports the request. There are no previous amendments.
Would you be able to scroll your screen down just a little?
Oh, sure. Gosh, yep, and I can zoom in too.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
There we go. Yeah, I was having trouble reading those. Okay. Any questions or discussions on that amendment? If not, motion to approve.
Make that motion. It's Maureen.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we'll go to voting. Darren,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Megan,
Aye.
Maureen,
Aye.
an aye for me as well, so that motion is approved.
Thank you all. This will be the third of the Wyoming County amendments for round 28, C71525, the Genesee River Water Quality Protection Project. Same extension timeframe date through end of January through the end of December of 2026. Same, no amendments on the round 28. Victor Giacomo brought this, of course, the request on pages 26 through 31 of your packet.
Any questions or discussions? If not, motion to approve.
I motion to approve.
Second.
Maureen.
Okay, we'll go to voting. Darren,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Megan,
Aye.
and Maureen,
Aye.
and aye for me as well, so that motion is approved.
Next we are looking at the final one from this region is Wyoming County again, round 28, C71526, the Beaver Meadow Creek Nutrient Management Project. Extension date of January 31st, 26 through December 31st, 2026. Victor Giacomo brought this, supports the request, first state committee, no previous amendments, and the information is on pages 32 to 37 of your amendment and highlighted on the screen. Is that summary?
Any questions or discussion? If not, motion to approve.
I'll make that motion. It's Maureen.
Second.
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 All right, we'll go to voting. Darren,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Megan,
Aye.
Maureen,
Aye.
and aye for me as well, so that one is approved.
Okay, moving on to our next region. This is Region 2. First one we'll consider is Cayuga County Soil and Water for round 28. Contract number C701494, the Owasco Lake Water Quality Improvement, Sunrise Ag. This title. The extension here is from January 31st, 2026 through January 31st, 2027. PJ Hambrick brought this to us, supports the press and refers to state committee. No previous amendments. The material provided is on pages 38 to 48 of your material, and highlighted on screen is the provided summary.
Any questions or discussion? Motion to approve?
I motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
I'll second.
All right, we'll go to voting. Darren?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Maureen?
Aye.
And aye for me as well, so that one is approved.
Moving down, now in Region 2, still, Wayne County Soil and Water for round 27, C701486, the Sodas Creek Waste and Nutrient Transfer System Project, extension from March 1st, 2026 through March 1st, 2027. PJ Emmerich, Region 2 AEA supports the request and it's brought to the state committee for their consideration. This has had one additional amendment to it, and the information is on pages 49 to 55 of your materials.
Any questions or discussion? Motion to approve?
So move.
Second?
I'll second it.
All right, we'll go to voting. Darren?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Maureen?
Aye.
And aye for me as well, so that one's approved.
Thank you. Moving on to the second Wayne County amendment request here. This is a round 28, C71522, the Kraft Family Farm Nutrient Management Project. Extension from January 31st, 2026 through January 31st, 2027. This is brought to us by PJ Emmerich, the Region 2 AEA. He supports the request and brings to the state committee. No previous amendments on this contract. It is on pages 56 to 62 of your provided material.
Any questions or discussion? If not, a motion to approve?
I motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All right, we'll go to voting. Darren?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Maureen?
Aye.
And aye for me as well, so that one is approved.
Thank you. Okay, we're moving to Region 3. This is going to cover Delaware, Montgomery, and Schoharie. Alphabetically, we'll start with Delaware County, Soil and Water. Around 26, C701488. This is a waste storage and transfer style leachate treatment, use area runoff, access control, and riparian buffer system. With the current updated contract end of December 30th, 2025, end of this month, looking to extend to December 31st, 2026, the end of next year. Scott Fickbaum, who was with us today, and supports the request and refers to state committee. There is one previous amendment to this contract prior. It is on pages 63 to 69 of the provided material. The summary is highlighted on screen.
Any questions or discussion? If not, a motion to approve?
I motion to approve.
Second?
Second. Maureen?
All right, we'll go to voting. Darren?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Maureen? Maureen?
Aye.
Oh, okay, sorry, I didn't hear it the first time. All right, and aye for me as well, so that is approved.
Moving to Montgomery County, so request for a round 26 extension. This is contract number C701426 titled Bridgedale. Current contract end date is on December 31st, 2025, end of this month. The district is looking for an extension to December 31st of 2027. Scott Fickbaum, again, has brought this request and supports it. He is referring to state committee. There's been one previous amendments to this contract. The information is on pages 70 to 77 of your packet. district is here today, if they'd like to speak at all to it, or if there's any questions. There you go.
Any questions or discussions on that amendment? If not, a motion to approve?
So move.
I'll make motion.
Okay.
Scott, I believe you're gonna have to abstain from the vote on this
Oh,
one.
Okay, all right.
That's right. I forgot about that one. Okay, so do we have a first and second now? Were you,
I
I'll
believe
abstain
David
from making
made
a
a
motion.
motion.
Yeah, I made the motion originally.
all right, so we have, okay, so we'll go to voting. Darren,
Aye.
Megan,
Aye.
Maureen,
Aye.
and I for me as well, so that one's approved.
Before we move on, did we have a second on that?
Well, that's what I wasn't sure whether we got the first or second or not. Darren was first, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so, and then Scott was second, but he had to, is that right? And then he had to, so we,
Correct. So we need a second.
okay.
I can second that.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't remember whether we had 3 motions or 2 to start.
All right, great. Got unanimous on that. Last one for this region is Schoharie County, in round 26. C71434, the Carker Barnyard Improvement Project, extension from the end of this month, 12/30/2025, through the end of next year, 12/30/2026. Scott Bickbaum, Region 3 AA supports the request with First State Committee. There's been one previous amendment and extension to this project. Information is on pages 78 to 84 of your packet, and summary is highlighted on screen for your review.
All right, any questions or discussion? If not, a motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
I'll second it.
All right, we'll go to voting. Darren,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Megan,
Aye.
Maureen,
Aye.
and I for me as well. So that one is approved.
Okay, this is our last region to consider. It's the one conservation district put in 2, Lewis County Soil and Water. First one to consider is a round 27 Cozy Knoll Farm implementation project. Extension looking from March 1st, 2026 through March 1st, 2027. Ryan Cunningham, Region 4 AEA supports the request, but First State Committee. There has been one additional extension to this project. And your materials on pages 85 to 97 of your packet, and summary is highlighted on screen for review.
Any questions or discussions on this one? If not, a motion to approve.
Make that motion. Maureen?
Second.
Aye. Megan, second.
Okay, and we'll go to voting. Darren,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Megan,
Aye.
and Maureen.
Aye.
And I for me as well. So that one's approved.
And so, thank you. Last one. Thanks, everybody. This is Lewis County Soil and Water, round 28, C71507, the High Falls Farm Implementation Project. Extension of 1 year from January 31st, 2026 to January 31st, 2027. This was brought to us by Ryan Cunningham, the Region 4 AEA, who supports the request and refers to State Committee. No previous amendments or extensions to this project. Information was submitted. It's on pages 98 to 110 of the packet. And on screen, I've highlighted summary for your quick review.
Any questions or discussions on this amendment? Motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
I'll second it.
All right, we'll go to voting. Darren,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Megan,
Aye.
and Maureen.
Aye.
And I for me as well. So that one is approved.
That was all of them and everything for Ag non-point source. Thank you for your time.
All right, so then we are on to climate resilient farming program with Jennifer.
Hello, thank you. I have an update on CRF round 9. We did receive applications. The CRF round 9 application period has closed. And so I have some stats today for you about the applications that were received. So this shows you we have 24 million available for round 9, and the amount of funding requested per track is listed here. A total of 38 million was requested. Track 1 had a request of 15.5 million. Track 2 had a request of 8.9 million for adaptation and resiliency projects. Track 3, Healthy Soils NY, had a request of 13 million, and Track 4, Agricultural Forestry Management, had just under a million request. So this is the amount of applications we received per track. We received a total of 96 applications for round 9. This also shows you how many applications we received last round, to just give you some perspective. For some stats for round 9, we received 96 applications. We have 24 million available, and 38 million was requested. 34 soil and water conservation districts submitted applications. The applications have a total of 195 farms represented, with 62 new farms self-identified that we will go through and award 5 preference points to if they meet the criteria of not having been awarded a Ag Non-Point Source or CRF award in the last 10 years. So that's what we define as a new farm to our programs. 64,000 acres of cover crops were proposed, and 47 acres of riparian buffers were proposed, and 96 acres of tree planting using our track 4 per acre rates were proposed. Oh, and that's the information I had about round 9.
I was
Right
curious,
now,
Jennifer.
all of the, yeah, go ahead.
So on the one slide there, you showed that the requests for healthy soils seem to be down for this round, I think, if I saw it right.
So healthy soils. So we did have less applications this round. So to give you a little perspective on round 8, we did have, we had been awarded a USDA Climate Smart Commodities grant, and we had incorporated some of that funding into round 8. That grant had been canceled, and all of those projects that were awarded funding under round 8 that were from the federal tracks, federally funded tracks, we had to, and this board approved using some of our state funding to cover that federal funding loss. So round 8 had some additional funding in it, and one of the emphases to that federal funding was around soil health and manure management.
Yeah.
So that explains why those were a little heavier last round versus this round.
Okay, so the cover crop acres that you showed on the next slide, I assume that was under track 3?
So mostly under track 3, some of the other, here to 64,000 acres. Some of the other projects do incorporate cover cropping as, just as more of a system approach, but most of those acres are dedicated to cover cropping projects that are under track 3.
Do we have any sense at this point if that number of acres is up or down or fairly the same as their last round?
I didn't actually look at it from last round, so am not sure. I'd just kind of be guessing, but considering we had so much more funding dedicated to soil health last round, I think that the numbers probably dip a little bit. But in perspective to how much funding we have just standalone in this round, I think overall our numbers are trending high for soil health practices.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was kind of curious of whether we're still, because it seems in the past, especially with cover cropping, we have been moving up with acreage, and that's what I was kind of curious of whether that funding change caused that to drop, significantly, or whether it was still kind of more or less heading in the right direction.
Yeah, I think it was really focused in CRF2, and now it's really being kind of worked on in all of our programs equally. So that spread out the impact of our cover cropping efforts a little bit too.
Good. Okay.
So that's all I have for round 9. Oh, I will mention that. So in the process, we have reviewed all of the applications for completeness and eligibility, and they've all been approved to move or are going to be moving forward to the next level of review, which is where we use outside agencies to award a score to each proposal, and then we put them in a ranked order, and we will be bringing that list back to the state committee in February. So that's round 9. I do have a few amendments, actually a couple amendments for your consideration today. I think I can share that as well, Bethany. So the first amendment is from Region 1. It is Niagara County Soil and Water. This is a round 6 project for cover cropping. They were not able to complete the cover cropping due to weather in the time that they had under the contract, so we're asking for more time to complete those acres.
Any questions or discussion on this request? If not, motion to approve.
Make that motion, Maureen.
Second.
Second.
All right, we'll go to voting. Darren?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
And Maureen?
Aye.
Aye for me as well. Excuse me, so that is approved.
So the next one is from Region 3. Excuse me. This is from Schoharie County Soil and Water. It's around 6. This is Cranmore Silvopasture project. There were some delays that occurred as the farm has undergone some management changes and had difficulty getting an engineer for the project. The farm and district are committed to completing this by the new deadline of 9/30/27. So this is still under work, and they're able to move forward now. So these delays are being or solutions are being recognized for these delays, I should say.
Any questions or discussion on this amendment? If not, a motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, we'll go to voting. Darren?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Maureen?
Aye.
And aye for me as well, so that one's approved.
Great, thank you very much. Those are the only amendments we had for CRF. And that's all I have to update unless there are any questions.
Okay. Bethany, I'm going to take a 5-minute break here.
Okay.
So I will be back in a minute.
Matt, do you want Darren to kind of continue on with the next agenda item?
Yeah, that's fine if you want to do that.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't have the agenda right in front of me, so.
Oh, that's okay. Let me just share it really quick. We're moving into just some updates from our subcommittees.
Okay. It's easy enough.
Victor, do you want to kick things off? I can share your presentation, or you can share your slides if you want.
Let me give it a shot and see if I can figure it out.
All right.
Can we see that?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm here. My name is Victor Giacomo to give you a quick overview of the activities of the District Operations Subcommittee over the past 4 or 5 months or so. Just to give you a little bit of background about where we're coming from, the subcommittee actually just celebrated its 10-year anniversary this year. We met for the first time back in May of 2015. That was a meeting that was in person in Albany and also involved a telephone. This initiative started way before the advent of WebEx, or at least the common use of this type of activity. So so a lot of things have changed since we first began the committee. We were active for a couple of years in 2015 and 2016, a little bit in 2017, and our major charge at that point was to develop an operations manual for soil and water districts that would provide them with an operational framework to operate at the local level. Real quickly, this manual was rolled out at the June 2017 managers meeting, and over the years it has received an update or two. I believe in 2019 it was reopened to make some nominal updates, but largely the committee itself has been rather stagnant for a number of years, and their 2025 initiative is the state committee and CDA's and NYACD's attempt to reinvigorate the committee itself and to update the operations manual. So our committee role and functions, as originally proposed back 10 years ago, we're here to essentially provide a routine venue for districts to present operational issues, so we can explore those conversations, support all types of district administrative concepts and ideas relative to making things more effective and strengthening consistency throughout the state. A lot of 58 counties, right? So we have a lot of different things happening throughout each soil and water district, and how do we make things consistent for all? Setting a good framework for good operational policies so that districts can model after a good set of procedures. So as I said, our objective over the past 4 or 5 months or so has been the updating of the operations manual, and we anticipate that this is where we will be for at least the foreseeable future. So how does our plan update, how does that coincide with the state committee's priorities and objectives? It does dovetail, rather nicely with the state committee's recently approved 5-year strategy under strategic goal number 1 and strategic goal number 5. We have a number of goals that the state committee has set relative to district operations and the support of an operations subcommittee, bringing more capacity onto our staff to support these initiatives, and more training opportunities and training tools for district staff to utilize, and for state committee staff to utilize as well. So the manual itself, as I said, it was a collaborative effort between the parties that be, and we're trying to make this manual as user-friendly as possible. It's a rather daunting document. I don't have it in front of me, but it's quite a number of pages. Here's a list of the sections that the manual is comprised of, and the chapters that are highlighted in green is where we started our effort back in May of this year. We've met 3 times since then, just recently in November, and we started with some heavy topics, some big ones, financial management, risk management, district director activities, and public meetings and records. The ones in green, I think we have those draft chapters in a good place where we're able to secure additional comments. Financial management is, I believe, in my opinion, still a chapter in activity. It's something, it's probably the largest and most important chapter in the manual. I anticipate it'll be yellow for a while. We have made some updates to it, but there's different ideas on where we may take the financial management section, whether we're going to make it into smaller sub chapters or maybe some other ideas to be determined. So that one's still open for consideration. And the ones in red, introduction and the history of conservation districts, some lighter topics, if you will, that's kind of where we've landed to focus over the holiday season. So those are the two chapters that the active committee members are focused on right now and looking over and reviewing. So everything that's not highlighted just yet is yet to be determined, and lots of opportunity to participate with the committee to make your footprint and make yourself known and your priorities known at the local level through this subcommittee. So how are we updating these chapters? You know, first and foremost, there's a lot of outdated stuff. You know, 2019 pre-COVID, that was the last time this was opened up. So there's some outdated information. There's some legal and regulatory gaps. Not to say that we want this manual to be a legal guidance document, but it should at least provide districts with a framework, or at least introduce the subject matter to districts. So updating that type of stuff as well is on our minds. Is also making the document a little more practical and applicable and usable by districts. You know, as intended. Is the current dynamic the best way to go forward? So those types of things we're also exploring. Where do we go from here? You know, I think after the manual is updated and we can put that in a rear view mirror, the committee, I believe this time we'd like to keep it active. And these are a couple of the things that I believe we would like to focus on. You know, identifying some common operational challenges that exist throughout the district community, training ideas, training support needs throughout the state, identifying some of those obscure things that work at the local level that might be worth sharing with other districts. You know, those types of things do occur out there, and unfortunately, we do tend to operate and work in a vacuum sometimes at the local level. So highlighting and daylighting some of those things, and developing a training module, which was an initiative that is born out of the 5-year committee, state committee strategy. So lots of good things on our horizon. Other areas of interest is also something that is worth mentioning. The committee is designed to be open-ended, like all our other committees. It should be a venue for districts to continually approach state committee with ideas and topics that are of interest to them. So we leave that bookend off the shelf. Next meeting is January 29th, 1 to 3 p.m. via WebEx. And thanks for the time. If there are any questions, I'm here for the duration.
Thank you, Victor. That was a really great update. And I appreciate you leading that committee and getting things back up and going. That district operations manual is, I think, a really important tool for districts. And, you know, one of the reasons why we're continuing to work to, you had some of those like future items on there. You know, one of the reasons why we're trying to work to hire somebody who's not only going to oversee the state aid to districts program, but also serve as that district operations specialist on the state committee staff to maybe continue forward with keeping that manual updated, working on those trainings, on those other future items. So it's a really important task, and I appreciate you leading that effort. Next subcommittee that state committee has, we have our state programs advisory committee. Greg.
Bethany, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Victor, that was a great segue into this and really all of our committees. That was last slides, a couple there where, you know, it's really seeking ways where we can gather input, feedback, good ideas from districts, and depending on the committee, other partners, and then build those into our efforts and programs toward our state committee strategy and the impacts that come from that. And younger than the operations subcommittee is one that came about, I think, roughly as, you know, an idea from independently from a couple people on our staff a few years ago, Bethany Bizdu and Scott Fickbaum, and just made sense to consider a new committee, and we call it the State Committee State Programs Advisory Committee, as an opportunity to have more frequent, regular discussions between soil and water districts and state committee about all aspects of programs that we offer. I feel like, you know, over the last several years, we've continued to live and learn and up our game about taking good notes when we hear about issues or opportunities with our program so that they're there for us when we put together the draft of a new program, and then discuss those designs of a new round of funding with districts, debrief from a recently closed round of funding. So we'll continue to do that, but this builds a regular every other month opportunity to tee up an agenda with topics like that, and discussions in early stages of program development and support activities. So role and function, discuss state committee programs, seek feedback from districts, share and gather new program ideas. There's a lot of support efforts that go into that, training, technical training, engineering constraints and opportunities. How can we take steps forward in those regards? Identifying other focus areas for funding, and really getting program concepts ready to then move up the ladder for review and ultimately approval in this forum at the state committee through our TAC and the state committee. So in that regard, the SPAC committee is considered advisory, but not a decision-making or voting committee. We meet every other month or as needed, and since our inception there 2 years ago, we've met that mark and met every other month. So we had our 12th meeting back in early December, and we have our next one on February 5th in the new year. And I don't know, about halfway through, there was a good idea from Jennifer Kelly and colleagues, and through the CDA, they developed a subcommittee to the SPAC where they can form and come up with questions or review materials that come from the SPAC, and calibrate and further engage when we meet during SPAC meetings or on the side through communications. So we appreciate them taking that role and really adding capacity and productivity to these meetings. This is not to go line by line, but just kind of a summary for your eyes right now, and also the notes for the meeting of what we've accomplished in the last 2 years through the SPAC. So considering the concepts and bones of 2 rounds of CRF 8, including a brand new track for forestry and agroforestry, Ag Non-Point Source rounds 30 and 31, KFO program, AIM 19 and strategic plan updates, other programs, getting into technical elements here. So health benchmarks, Joseph Amsley from Cornell provided some updates there as that then advanced through TAC and SPAC. Couple policy updates in terms of the every other year soil health policy update and the post-tree planting stewardship policy. You heard about some updates in the last couple state committee meetings that are also worked through the SPAC, and those are for urban ag, nearshore aquaculture, and a few that are very important and currently works in progress. So not deployed and implemented and out there in use, but under development. And that's continuing to up our game for programming for climate resiliency adaptation. Tim Clark is leading the charge with the Conservation Approval Authority update, and then some separate but related topics about conservation technical training and engineering constraints and opportunities. So, you know, focusing on programs themselves, but also the key elements that support those programs and their success by districts. And as I'm looking at this slide, I would be, I'd miss if I didn't acknowledge Jim Liebram working his plan of work there with productivity, support for the community and his team, and in a safe manner. So good job. Oops, sorry about that. All of the discussions are memorialized on the state committee SharePoint site. It's within the resources for districts, and then in a SPAC folder and organized by year. And the next one, like I said, is coming up on February 5th, and we always welcome ideas for discussion to put on the agenda. And then certainly cycling through, necessary opportunities for input from programs that we're developing. Bethany, thank you for the time on that, and we really appreciate all the districts and staff and state committee voting members that spend time with this SPAC and help us think through these often complex issues and opportunities.
Thank you, Greg. Really appreciate it. So the last subcommittee that we have through our State Soil and Water Conservation Committee is the Technical Advisory Committee. And I guess I don't have any slides to share with you today, but I do have a verbal update on the things that we have accomplished throughout the year through the Technical Advisory Committee. So just a brief, I guess, overview. The Technical Advisory Committee is made up of advisory members, all of the 9 entities who are advisory members to our state committee, as well as state committee staff. And we often cover very similar topics to what is discussed at the State Programs Advisory Committee. We utilize our Technical Advisory Committee to review policies that we have been drafting, or request for proposals or programs that we are working on. We will utilize our Technical Advisory Committee and the knowledge and experience and expertise that our advisory members bring, not only to our State Soil and Water Conservation Committee, but we utilize them in that advisory capacity to help inform the development of our policies and programs. We try to meet on a quarterly basis, so approximately 4 times a year or more as needed. Since we've put together this State Programs Advisory Committee, we're working on changing the role a little bit of our Technical Advisory Committee to really encourage more cooperation and information sharing between all of the different agencies that are a part of that. That then we can share out to our soil and water conservation district partners to help them improve and keep moving forward. So this past year, we've had 3 meetings so far, one in March, one in June, one in September, and we have one later this week on December 18th. Throughout the year, we've had a number of different discussions regarding draft policies, specifically the tree establishment and soil health policy. We worked through our State Programs Advisory Committee and our Technical Advisory Committee to get those policies in a place to where they were presented to you folks and approved. We also earlier this year, like Chaz mentioned, started talking about the nearshore aquaculture topic through AEM at our Technical Advisory Committee meetings. Jason Copinos presented our draft Round 31 RFP. And in September, we had a really great discussion with advisory committee members about specifically those who review the proposals through our competitive programs. We had a discussion about those proposals and their review process to try to get some insight that we could then turn around and share with districts to help them improve their proposals. From that discussion, we were able to glean a number of different tips and insights from our reviewers that can be shared with districts. And we are actually in the process of working with the Conservation District Employees Association on a grant writing class that will be held as part of the Water Quality Symposium in March. And a lot of the information that we talked about at that TAC will be shared, during that session. And on our agenda for later this week, I'm planning to discuss with advisory members what various different tools and resources are out there that districts can use throughout the course of their day-to-day work, but also to help make their proposals really shine. So we want to get a good list and inventory of all the things that are out there available for districts to use in that capacity. I think as of right now, I think the quarterly meeting structure has been working really well. We've all got a lot of meetings going on, but I think 4 times a year is a really great, so far it's a good kind of meeting frequency. And I'm really looking for a number of different ways on how we can continue to work together as an advisory committee to continue that information sharing, really increase the cooperation and collaboration that we have amongst all the various advisory agencies to this committee. Any questions on any of our subcommittees? I'll put a little plug out there. We'll talk about it, I guess, a little bit at the end of the agenda, but in February, that's going to be our state committee's annual organizational meeting, where we will reappoint the various voting members to the different subcommittees. I really encourage folks to, if you have the ability to participate. It's a hybrid structure usually for all of our subcommittee meetings, so there's always a virtual option. It's a great way to kind of learn what's been going on and be involved in that policy and program process.
Thank you, Bethany, and I agree with what you were saying there. I've tried to participate in some of the committee meetings, and I find it helpful as these things come to us during these meetings to have a little background by sitting in on the committee. So thank you for that. And I guess we're up to the reports, to the voting members, and I'll start. I just want to pass on that for those of you who worked with Lauren Swift, I saw her and she wanted me to extend a hello to all the people she worked with in the past. And I also want to wish everybody happy and safe and fun holidays. So with that, Darren, do you have anything to report?
No, I don't believe so, Matt.
All right, Scott?
I'd like to report the Open Water Data Act, Assembly Bill 5254 and Senate Bill 1211 was vetoed by the governor. Legislative days coming up February 10th. Will be at Taste of New York on February 9th as well. I believe the materials for the legislative day will be handed out at the hotel evening February 9th. The legislative booklet deadline was Friday. Blanche put out an email extended to today for anybody that might still have a project to submit. As of Friday, there were about 35 districts who have submitted projects for the legislative booklet. So thank you to all that have. And legislative date for the districts that want to attend. Blanche needs a list of legislators that they want for appointments.
All righty, Megan?
Man, I just wanted to say that I appreciated those subcommittee updates. They were very, like you said, helpful to get a better understanding of what each one is doing. And I have found it helpful to attend some of those too.
And Maureen?
I don't really have much to report, but I will also wish you all happy holidays and look forward to the new year and new programs and all the exciting stuff we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Bethany, I'll turn it over to you to go through the remainder of the participants.
Absolutely. We will go in the same order that we did roll call. So we'll start with folks in Albany. Have you go around the table first.
Yeah, no, Tim Clark, nothing to report this time. Tim Sheldon?
Yeah, Tim Sheldon. The 2025 New York State Energy Plan was officially adopted today by the board, which Commissioner Ball serves on. So the State Energy Plan is mandated to meet every 4 years. The last full plan was published in 2015 with an update in 2020 to match the Climate Act scoping plan to involve some of that into it. So it was approved today. The SEP provides broad energy program and policy development direction to guide energy related decision making in the state. They project out to 2040. So there's relevant things in there. We've been involved in the process. So there is in a couple different chapters issues related to three-phase power, necessary three-phase power upgrades, on-farm energy production, land use, and plans for the hard to electrify equipment on farms. So I can provide the link in the chat to the energy plan. I think right now the website probably just has the draft plan because it was like an hour ago officially adopted. But I doubt it'll look much different from the draft plan.
That link would be great, Tim. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, Scott Figbone, Region 3 AEA. Region 3 is, I guess, pretty quiet. Deadline's approaching. AIM strategy, AIM 18, various rounds. Districts have been holding their holiday meetings and whatnot. So sort of business as usual, I suppose, out there. For myself personally, I've been working on the CREP report. The annual CREP report is due, typically it's due at the end of this month. But I think because of the shutdown, they've given us some extra time up until January 20th to get it together. I've been working on it. Seems to be coming together pretty quick and easy. Challenging for USDA to implement that program this year for sure. And that will show up in the report. They, early in the year came up against a nationwide cap. So basically a shut or slowdown of the program. And then, of course, we had the actual government shutdown. That said, the work that did get done and the re-enrollments and contracts that did get processed were at great effort of our partners. So even though it wasn't a lot, I think it did still require a lot of work on their behalf and a bit of a tip of the hat. They came back to much reduced staff numbers and the like, and did really good with what they had. Hopefully in the future, it'll start to rebound a little bit more. Also in Region 3 taking place and participating in a training effort or trying to get organized approach to training technicians in the field, all towards, I guess, arriving at JAA for conservation type practices for those who have the knowledge, skills, and abilities. Working with Jennifer Kelly out of Chenango County on that, and Tim and Greg and our staff, of course. I think there's going to be another meeting on that topic January 6th. And then also working with districts in Region 3 to develop and find funding for a non-ag buffer program and afforestation program. So that would be planting trees along creeks and in fields that are not farms. And so dealing with large rural landowners, maybe municipalities and others, trying to flesh out a proposal for that and find a good home for that. So that's what I've been doing these past few weeks. So thanks for the time.
Not too much additional from my program status update, just a reminder that it's likely that round 31 starts off before we meet again. And so keep your eyes out for that kickoff, and then, keep your eyes out for round 30 contract signatures and moving that forward as it comes in. So just keep an eye out for Agnon point source movement. Thank you.
Brian, anything?
Oh, hello, everybody. Sorry, I missed most of the meeting today. I'm in a Lake Champlain steering committee meeting that just broke for lunch. I thought I'd just come in and say hello and hear whatever reports I can hear. So hopefully you guys all had a great meeting. And I don't really have anything else to report, but just happy holidays, everybody. Thank you.
Region 5, my new territory, kind of the Adirondack Northway area. Still trying to just get to all the meetings, introduce myself to board members, go to coalition meetings. I've made most all of them in the last couple months. Also a lot going on in the Lake Champlain watershed with Quickney. I'm trying to get new contracts executed off the ground and old ones closed out. So a lot going on there. Helping Bethany a little bit behind the scenes with state aid forms and reports that will be out soon. And a lot of, like Scott said, a lot of closeouts, a lot of partial closeouts, AEM wrapping up round 18, and then also AIM strategies for the next 5 years kind of coming in, trickling in here. A lot of those being approved at this month's board meetings, it seems like. So I think that's about it for me.
And I sincerely appreciate all of your guidance regarding the state aid program. You're an expert at it. It's been very, very helpful. All right, everybody in Albany has had a turn.
Yep.
Fantastic. How about folks in Syracuse?
Thanks, Bethany. I'll do a quick review. Ryan Cunningham again here, Region 4 AEA. End of the calendar year type stuff for a lot of the districts. Folks are real busy wrapping up AEM 18. Everyone's using the final days and hours to kind of button up projects, get paperwork together, and then kind of quickly transition into AEM 19. So we're doing a lot of reminders, dotting I's, crossing T's, visiting districts and projects when we can. Otherwise, a lot of routine stuff, grant closeouts and meetings. I'll mention Warren County's meeting because Jim brought it up quickly. When he was on, they had their annual meeting yesterday, and I tried to get to a couple of those a year, not only for the free lunch, but to kind of catch up with colleagues and partner agencies around the state. They do a particularly nice job, and I wanted to highlight them because they do a quick 2-hour in and out lunch, networking with colleagues, reviews of their workload through the year, and they do partner awards. They also had a state assembly person there and a state senate person there, so they get the elected officials in the rooms with them, sitting elbow to elbow having lunch. So you've got all the partners, all the district, non-for-profits, state folks there, and it's a great way to kind of communicate on the year-end accomplishments, and they all seem to know each other by first name basis. So I think others have taken note of that, how quickly you can do something like that and have great communication with local folks in your county. They seem to do a good job there, and everyone kind of knows who they are. So I wanted to highlight that quick since Jim's not on anymore. So otherwise, I'll pass it around the room here to Dan.
Good morning, everyone. Dan Welch with Cooperative Extension. I know last week was CCA training, but if staff were unable to travel there, our winter meetings will be picking up across the state right after the first of the year, and a lot of those have CCA credits too if you have staff that need those. And then other than that, just happy holidays, and hope folks get to take a little vacation time between now and the first of the year.
Hey, Dan, do you have a schedule for those winter meetings that we could include or a link or something?
Yeah, let me, I will try to see if I can get you something in a format that is usable.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. This is PJ, Region 2 AEA. Same as what the other guys said, a lot of year-end board meetings where they invite local elected officials and state elected officials as well. And those are going very well. We get an opportunity to see a lot of the accomplishments that the districts have done throughout the year and how the money is being allocated to different municipalities and projects and things like that. So it's always a great time of year to see all that, and always nice to hear a lot of the kind words from the elected officials as well toward the districts. Other than that, I've been helping with a few AIM closeouts for year 18 and just some other general board meeting things, and also keeping the Finger Lakes Round 2 projects going forward. We're going to wrap that up. In fact, we're down to our final acres right now. So we'll get that wrapped up and have a report for you once that's done. And then the Eastern Finger Lakes, of course, is still going forward. We have the implementation contract now, and we received the funding for that. And we also have the capacity money in-house as well. So that's moving forward as well. So other than that, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
PJ. Tyler Knapp here. Definitely a busy month this past month. Starting with, I guess, what folks have already kind of said, AEM closeout. So those districts that have implemented new databases over the last 2 years, I've been working with a lot of those districts to summarize their AEM data into a nice format, hopefully, which is just a click of a button now, but a little bit of troubleshooting along the way as we go through that process. As PJ said, and I think Ben said as well, a lot of watershed stuff happening across the state. We're working on a USC contract currently with to do some more afforestation stuff. Quickly, scope of work. We're working with DEC, finalizing that process hopefully in the next couple of months, as well as the Eastern Finger Lakes. We're working on a new tool in coordination with DEC to kind of uniform or standardize the way that we collect data across both of our agencies and departments. It would be kind of a one-stop shop for ag, non-ag, collecting specific BMPs, implementation dollars, basically that general project information. And in theory, this would be a pilot, and hopefully we can utilize it going forward across some of our other programs. I think that's it for me.
Thank you. All right. So now we'll move to, I'll just kind of run down the list of the advisory members who are joining virtually. And if you guys have a report, feel free to share. Let's see. How about Cornell Cals? Is Jared still with us? Okay. CDEA.
Thank you, Bethany. I do have some highlights I would like to report out on. Our CDEA board has attended a number of meetings to ensure that the four-way partnership is upheld and that we are contributing to and supporting our New York State Soil and Water Conservation District employees. I attended a very productive four-way partnership meeting that was hosted by Bethany, Blanche Hurlbut, the executive director from NYACD, as well as Blake Glover, the NRCS state conservationist, attended. And we talked about important upcoming events, including legislative days hosted by NYACD. We also discussed the NRCS contribution and cooperative agreement. Blake will attend our January CDEA meeting to provide a thorough update on the NRCS contribution and cooperative agreement process. We discussed some pending NRCS Inflation Reduction Act contracts, as well as ARC Pro licenses for Soil and Water Conservation District. A lot of time was devoted to moving forward with how we could address challenges that conservation districts are experiencing caused by a shortage of engineering. Bethany has been in contact with SUNY ESF, Environmental Science and Forestry, and she is going to spearhead a group to discuss how to connect engineering students with soil and water conservation districts, hoping that we can fill the gap that this has created in terms of getting projects approved and stamped by professional engineers. In that meeting, I was taking a look at some SUNY schools engineering programs and noticed that many SUNY schools have careers in engineering. And I'm going to be reaching out to SUNY schools to see if conservation districts can't be added to that list to inform students that conservation districts do have careers that would be very well suited to graduating students. The CDEA board developed and adopted a preliminary draft 2026 budget that will be discussed and voted on during the March 2026 annual meeting. Line items include an attorney, a lobbyist, as well as continued 4-hour fund applications to support trainings for conservation districts. The New York State Department of Environmental Conservation endorsed 4-hour erosion and sediment sediment control training committee. Whew, that's a mouthful. They have formed a work group of conservation districts, state committee staff, as well as DEC employees. And that work group is working to update the permit section of the course, move in-person and live course trainings to the CDEA website, update course instructor list, and they also sent an email soliciting feedback from instructors on major updates to the course. The updated course will be rolled out during the 2026 Water Quality Symposium. The New York State Fair and Farm Days Committee held meetings to discuss and prepare for 2026 events. I have heard from some of my partners that the state fiscal year 26-27 budget could be a very challenging cycle, and the Environmental Protection Fund has been used in the past to balance the state budget. I, as well as other partners, are concerned about the Environmental Protection Fund. This funds the Soil and Water Conservation District line item, the state aid to districts, parts A, B, and C. It also funds things like ag non-point source pollution and climate resilient farming. So trying to get ahead of potential cuts, I have been encouraging all 58 conservation districts to mail a handwritten letter to the governor. This is not an ask, but instead a simple thank you for the EPF funding, and this is what we do with it. Encouraging districts to pull on her heartstrings. We know that she loves tree planting. We know that she loves septic system replacements. And I did echo this request to NYACD. The New York State Envirothon Committee is preparing to offer high school students an incredible immersive competition that will test their knowledge of natural resources. This year's current issue has been announced, and it will be pollution. It begins at home. And finally, I will pop into the chat some upcoming meetings. I do want to highlight our Water Quality Symposium. Jess Armstrong is heading up that committee, and I know many state committee staff members serve to assist with courses and instruct courses. It's going to be an epic event, so save the dates for March 10th through 13th, 2026. We'll be returning to the Rochester Hyatt. And also the CDEA annual meeting will be held March 11th, 2026 during the symposium, noon until 2 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin. That was a really great report, and I appreciate, as always, having a copy of that to append to the minutes. Fantastic. Let's see. We did have Tony Prestigiacomo on the line, who is our DEC rep. Unfortunately, he had to sign off before we got to the reports, but he did indicate that he had nothing to share at this time. So moving down the list, Department of Health. Morgan or Ryan, do you have any reports today?
I don't have anything to add, but just want to say happy holidays to everyone and hope you all have a good holiday season and good New Year.
No updates on my end. Thanks a lot.
Thank you both. How about Department of State? Okay, and NRCS.
Okay, just a brief update. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, just to be sure. And on mute most of the morning. Some of these are subject to change, but I call it a small update on where current things are. It was announced yesterday, our new pilot USDA regenerative agriculture pilot. It's a pilot program that they're pushing out. The gist of it is it will leverage our existing NRCS programs in EQIP and CSP. And the idea is to deliver regenerative agriculture through our existing programs. It is so new, we don't have an abundance of information yet, but as you can tell, it will fall underneath our programs department. So more information to come on that, and I'm sure you'll be seeing plenty about it in the news. But very exciting. We're getting into some new things this upcoming year. We also announced yesterday that January the 15th will be our first funding round of our key conservation programs. So instead of doing numerous announcements for EQIP and then one for CSP and then one for our easement program, one announcement is being pushed out, and that will be the batching date. So as always, applicants can still apply year round. It's just we have to batch those applications at some point. And this year, this first round will be January the 15th. We are expecting to receive GLRI funds that usually only affects the western portion of the state, but it's good to have an awareness. Our travel has been a bit limited these days, but you will notice me and members of my staff, we're still getting around to meetings as best as we can. Our outreach coordinator, Chris Dietz, I know he's been quite active out and about attending as he's able. I believe he was at something with Cornell in the not too distant past. And I've been attending more meetings remotely, also weather contingent. But we're definitely interested in what our partners have going on. We're listening in, keeping our ear to the ground, and just trying to see as our new budget is released in the upcoming year, we want an idea of where we might fit. I don't have much to report as far as NRCS agreements at this time because we are awaiting the fiscal year 2026 budget. It's a bit challenging to plan new agreements when you don't know exactly what portion of the funds you'll be able to maneuver within. Our biggest agreement as of late has been our national ACES agreement. It's an agreement in which we hire usually retired individuals, 55 and over, and it gives them an opportunity to come back. They're able to put their skill sets to good use. And at the same time, we can advance our NRCS mission through the work that they continue to contribute to us. So that one is very much so alive and well. Our local working group meetings, historically, we've always had them towards the end of summer, usually around August at the latest. This year, we're trying to move them up so that we have local working groups by the end of April. So that'll be new, different timeline. Our next state technical committee meeting, we try to have 2 of those a year. That's always the goal. The first meeting, we're projecting the end of March 2026. Information to still be announced. Our annual CSP payments are happening right now. Those are always batched towards the end of the calendar year, and any remaining CSP payments happen at the beginning of the new calendar year. So that's usually January, February, but this is the time of year, the only time of year CSP payments can go out. So staff are busily finishing those ahead of the Christmas holidays and New Year's holiday. Our EQIP payments continue as always. So many of those payments are being flooded out the door. After the shutdown, there was a backlog. So our staff are busily making sure those happen and that our farmers receive their contract payments. Members of my staff are actually assisting with CSP and EQIP payments as well, because as a state, it's one of our greatest priorities. Our customers will receive their payments. We are anticipating a larger than usual budget for CSP in this upcoming year. I don't have any additional information on that at this time. Currently, staffing levels, we are we currently have about 105 members of our NRCS New York staff. Every field office is still being covered. Work is continuing. And a super brief update on acting positions. You may or may not be familiar with these individuals, but for those co-located or near these counties, it's good that you have an awareness. Erin Kurtz is the acting district conservationist for teams 1 and 2. This is all in the Southeast. Jim Unser is acting district conservationist for teams 3 and 4. Oscar Velez Uarbe is acting DC for teams 5 and 7 in the South, 5 through 7 in the Southeast. In the Northeast, only one acting DC at this time, and that is Thomas Pratt. He's acting for North Team 1. And again, I mean, we have DCs in other places and offices. These are just the ones who are covering their own counties as well as neighboring teams. And at the end of this week, I will be attending the New York State SWCC Technical Advisory Committee meeting. I will have numerous updates that I'm going to be sharing regarding software that we offer to our district partners, things that they may or may not be aware of. Many are already using them, but there are many who don't even know some of these are available. And that would include like our NAPE imagery, the National Agriculture Imagery Program, as well as engineering software such as engineering field handbook. And I've just kind of got a lengthy list of information, but I wanted to just make mention that that will be coming out on December 18th. Many of you, I'm sure, will also be in attendance and can receive that information at that time to share with others. And that's pretty much it for me.
Thank you so much, Elena. And I'm looking forward to Thursday to hear all that information. That'll be great. Okay, I believe that wraps up our advisory members. So we'll just run through staff really quick who are on the line. For myself, I am still unburying from a bunch of emails that came through while I have been on leave, but for the remainder of the year and into the beginning of next year, we're going to be working on putting together some annual accomplishments from 2025 that we're going to be sharing with you all in February. I'm also going to start working on the State Committee AEM annual report with the goal of having that out as early as possible in 2026. hopefully no later than June, but we will try our best. I'm also, as Ben alluded to earlier, been trying to pick up the reins regarding the state aid to districts program. And we have been finalizing the annual reporting documents that get sent to districts by the end of the year so that they can start their annual reporting, which is due February 15th. So we're working on wrapping those up, and we'll hopefully be able to get that information out to districts as soon as possible before the end of the year. Additionally, we are moving forward with setting up an engineering work group, if you will, as a follow-up to our meeting last month where we had that really great discussion about the engineering needs. So I've communicated a little bit more with Christine Georgakakos, who is our SUNY ESF rep. We are targeting to have a first meeting of that little work group in the beginning of next year. And we're looking to bring in not only folks from SUNY ESF, but folks from some of our other advisory members and some district engineers who might be interested in helping address that part of the topic. So more to come on that. And as I already mentioned, working with some folks on our staff and CDEA to help coordinate a grant writing session for the Water Quality Symposium, which is happening in March. Greg, any additional reports today?
Thanks, Bethany. It was great to see all the districts, the private sector planners, extension, and industry folks at the Certified Crop Advisor Conference last week and the virtual version this week. And a big thanks to Ron Bush, Gideon Frisbee, and Brendan Jordan on our staff for developing and teaching 5 classes and helping to facilitate and organize the training. It went really well and appreciate it. And happy holidays to everybody.
All right, thank you. Victor DiGiacomo.
Yeah, the things that we focus on at the regional level are so similar. I'm going to hit the copy and paste button and thank the other guys for their report in that regard. I will also mention that in 2026, American Farmland Trust will be rolling out a webinar series focused on small farms and conservation on January 15th at 12 p.m. The first webinar focused on navigating water challenges in a changing climate. We'll convene. I'll be joining partners from DEC and Ontario County Soil and Water to deliver a message to small farmers throughout the state. I'm going to throw a link into the chat for those that want to register for this great event and the other 2 that they have scheduled for later in the spring. Beyond that, just one more quick plug for the Operations Subcommittee, January 29th from 1 to 3. Always looking for more participation. And if you have any operational questions or topics that you want to present to the committee, no time like the present. We do still have bandwidth to discuss those types of things in conjunction with the update of the manual. Lastly, I'll just mention that this morning my 9th grader saw me setting up for a WebEx, and she refused to leave me alone until I promised to wear these for the duration. So somebody will have to take a screenshot and tell her I made good on that promise, and Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Vic.
That's a good dad
Travis,
right there.
do you have any updates?
I think pretty much the other regional staff have echoed everything that I had to say. Just making board meetings and trying to move into looking at some projects, reviewing 5-year strategic plans for AEM. AIM 18 closeouts are starting to roll in. So yeah, nothing else really to add.
Thank you. How about Chaz?
Thank you so much for listening to the presentation earlier about nearshore aquaculture. It was we've been working pretty hard on that. Just a reminder to districts that AEM strategies are due by December 31st of this year. So we've got a few in. We were still waiting on a few of those. We've been working on closing some round 18 projects out and still happy, really excited to report all of round 19 AEM contracts are approved. We have 2 left that just need to go back to districts. So that's pretty good for all 57 of those districts participating in round 19. So happy holidays, everyone. And thank you so much, everybody, for all your support and your assistance, and you're working great together.
Thank you, Chaz. Jennifer Clifford had to step off early, so she had no additional reports to share today. Lauren Przorski, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'll just share that the ecosystem-based management program, we had a funding opportunity close last week for the stream corridor management pilot program. And so, I mean, I don't have much more right now because I'm still sorting through applications, but hopefully in the near future, I'll have more to share. And that's it.
Thank you, Lauren. And Gideon Frisbee, any reports today?
Yes, hi, good afternoon. Yeah, Greg covered the CCA conference well. I thought that was very well attended and things went smoothly there. Just the rest of the team, we continue to work on CNMP certification plan reviews and have several of those in the hopper, which is encouraging. And wish everybody a happy holidays. Thank you.
Thank you. Did I miss any state committee staff or advisory members? Okay. Any members of soil and water conservation districts that are on the line? Would you like to share any reports?
This is Klaus from Yates County. We found a foundation and a grant writer who is working on our work on irrigation. And we decided it really needs to be called water management, because this year we went from having rain 5 days a week to suddenly having it totally stop. And I think as the climate becomes more challenging, our conservation districts are going to be called NDEC actually to stretch. And I think it's only a matter of when, not if, we start irrigating here in the Northeast, because we do get enough rain in the course of a year, but it doesn't come distributed in a way that is always conducive to crop production. We had a meeting with Love Beets, and we've had in the past from other processors that they do not want to process vegetables anymore on land that doesn't have irrigation water in New York. And that's been one reason New York has lost a lot of vegetable capacity. My grant writer has been speaking personally to Secretary Rollins and is very optimistic that we can bring some money in, at least for demonstration projects. And my personal concern is that this needs to be done in concert with DEC and with our conservation districts so that we avoid some of the mistakes they've made in the West. I guess in the West, I've heard the saying that whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting over. We're fortunate at least to have enough water here, but to use it effectively and to protect the resource, use the resource without damaging it, I think is going to take some planning and some cooperation across the state. And it's better if we build it into the system than if we make mistakes and then try to fix them afterwards. I wanted to bring this up as something to get it put on our horizon as likely to happen over the next several years. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing those comments. Appreciate it.
Could I add a little bit to that? This
Please.
is Corey, Montgomery County. I did a large irrigation project where we did a 2,500 foot pivot irrigation system in Montgomery County. It's our first real installation. I met with DEC a couple of times, and we did do we flooded about a 10-acre site. It was a WRP site that RCS did, and it expired in 2019. We deepened it, expanded it. I met with DEC there, and he said it's not a regulated wetland, but it will be in 2028. We would never let you do this.
That's right.
You know, so I think we want to do flood mitigation as part of our CRF, and we want to do irrigation water management. Well, these impoundment structures, if you're doing a large impoundments, are going to be in these areas that are prone to flood and prone to these large flat areas that interfere or contradict DEC's directive as far as management of DEC wetlands going. And when they're gonna go down to 7.5 acres, you know, he told me we would never let you do this. You know, so I think there's right now, and this is fresh, it's brand new, right? This whole irrigation thing and flood mitigation with CRF and using state dollars to create these. And seeing DEC come and say, you know, we're not gonna let you destroy this large flat habitat that has, you know, these ecosystems in it. And I didn't, you know, so it's like, we didn't destroy it, we enhanced it, we gave it more up, you know, I don't know. So I think there's between flood mitigation, wetland, habitat development, you know, our strategies aren't really in compliance with DEC's thought process, I guess the best way I could say. I think there is gonna have to be some serious communication against, you know, when we talk about, you know, if we're gonna irrigate 300 acres, you need a couple million gallons of water. You know, and you're not gonna get that on a fee slope soil. It's gonna have to be on these floodplain areas. These potentially state wetlands might be affected by this, but DEC, you know, they really were not. It was pretty clear, you know, we wouldn't let you do this. We don't have any regulatory authority on your project. You know, so I think that we need to start having these conversations with New York State and DEC to, you know, if our priorities are with flood mitigation and irrigation water management and grabbing these, you know, floodplain areas, or where we're going to build these large, I think that, you know, that conversation needs to come up. We're going to be able to be successful.
I will add one other thing that irrigation gives us possibly a tool, and we haven't proven this, but I'm fairly confident that we can make a difference on the algal blooms. One of our problems is that we put our fertilizer out, put our manure out, and quite often have an early season drought so that the phosphorus lays there and the manure is not being used by the crop. And then when we get a very high intense rainfall event, we end up with that soluble phosphorus in the water and we get an algal bloom. In fact, in the Lake Erie study, they found that they could predict these algal blooms fairly accurately because of these heavy rainfall events that they come shortly afterwards. And I think if we could manage our water better, we probably could manage our phosphorus and deliver some ecosystem services and maybe reduce the incidence of the algal blooms. Again, I'm looking at this as a way to manage the problem on our farm. We've got a lot of slopes to Seneca Lake. All of our land drains fairly quickly when there's a big flood. And we would like to keep the phosphorus on the land. You know, it's a win-win if we can do that. So the other thing that we're seeing is irrigation equipment is being used more and more for manure. And if we can water it in a controlled way, it will protect it from the runoff, you know, and keep it on the land. So we've got some potential tools here if we develop this resource wisely and actually work across agencies to make a set of rules that work. We could come out way ahead.
So climate preparedness and resilience and adaptation is something that we're starting to talk more about in a broader sense, and how we can maybe reframe or build out our programs that we have available to kind of consider all these different factors and the changing needs of farms and the changing climate and all that sort of stuff. I think this topic kind of ties into that, and it is something that we've just sort of started to talk about, and we're going to start to kind of talk about it on on Thursday during our TAC. So I think more to come on this in the future. And it looks like our folks in Syracuse are being, looks like there's a conflict in meetings, so we can put a pin in this for now. And if there's any other comments or reports from folks on the line, please share those out.
All right, are we ready to move on to the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so that would be February 17th. And as Bethany's noted here, there's a couple things that need to be or already proposed for the agenda. Did you want to say any more about the organizational meeting, or are we good with that?
Yeah, so it's going to be our annual organizational meeting. It's something I want to try to get back on a regular schedule. So that just includes appointment or reappointment of our chair and vice chair, as well as, you know, appointment of the voting members to our various subcommittees. We're also planning, like I mentioned earlier, to have kind of an annual recap of our program accomplishments, what we were able to achieve, you know, in the past year. And I also want to share out some of our thoughts on priority areas, where we want to go in 2026 and the areas we want to focus on, which will include, you know, district training initiatives and working with our partners on those. So I think it'll be a really great meeting, jam-packed full. We are also planning to present the CRF Round 9 ranked list in February, if all goes according to plan. Sometimes those things get delayed, but that's, for right now, that's our intent as well.
Okay, sounds good. Is there anything else we need to cover?
I don't think so.
Okay, then I guess we will adjourn. So again, happy holidays to everybody.
Thank you all. Have a great rest of your year. And Happy
Thank
New
you.
Year.
See you all next year.
Thank you.
Hey.
Bye.